Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show with me, Barry Holmes. And happy Friday! It's been a long time. Last episode we had was back in March. We've had a whole lot of things that have happened over the past couple months, but I'm just really excited to get back here on the mic and get back to the essence of what I love doing, which is podcasting. I want to thank everyone out there that's tuned in on our live stream, whether you're on Facebook Live, whether you're on Instagram Live, whether you'll be watching this afterwards on YouTube. I just want to thank everyone that continues to support my podcast. Talk That Talk Show has been something that, has really materialized into something that I truly, truly love doing, and people really love supporting. The amount of people that come to me wearing their shirts, wearing their jerseys in the bowling alley, and now in Cannabis. Big shout out to Hamilton Farms. They sponsor our last jersey run, which we were able to wear for the state tournament. But now, you're starting to see the support bleed not only just in bowling, but now also into Cannabis as well too. So, one of the things that I really wanted to do with this brand was I just wanted to make it, exciting, fun, and, something that people could gravitate towards and find relatably. And, when you get Talk That Talk Show, each and every episode, you're getting 100% of my unfiltered thoughts. Whatever's going on in my life, whatever I'm, whatever's transpiring, whatever I'm, deciphering and reflecting upon. This is my outlet to show each and every one of you all out there what's going on in my life and how I can be a little bit better tomorrow. I think that, in the past 2 months, I really became, how could I say, my schedule suffocated me. I feel like, I had a lot of things going on, and my dad always says that, I don't know how you fit so much stuff into one day. And really, I just felt like every single day I just was keep going. And really, at one point, you're going to burn both ends of the candle. And there was a couple times throughout these past couple months where I would get home from work and I just would sleep, the entire time. And, maybe it's a little bit of a mix of me getting older, as much as I don't want to admit it, I'm going to be 35 in July. So, maybe I am losing a little bit of energy, but, the main thing is I just want to continue to do the things that make me happy. And this podcast is one of them, man. And I think that, from all the various events that I've had within these past couple months, which I'm definitely going to update everybody on. But, it's been a lot that's transpired since March. I'm really happy to get here on an episode and just get, really left off where we were at 266. And, when we were at my last episode, I was really telling everyone about how I was fully dived into, girls flag football. And, the cool thing about the girls flag game is that, it's just a game that I've never played, obviously because I wasn't a female, but, really it was one of the toughest challenges that I've had to do because I had to exude a lot of patience. And at the same time, with girls flag, we were building that program from absolutely nothing. Big shout out to Mary Beth Heaney's from North Plainfield, and she knows, man, I really tried so hard this season to build a better program, and that's all that I wanted to do. Last season, we had only had 2 wins, and I think that this season was probably one of the most trying seasons that I've ever had because I actually lost the person that brought me into coaching girls flag football. I was just a substitute. I was just a substitute teacher over at North Plainfield. And, Coach Wright, big shout out to Shanice Wright. I love her. She pretty much, I had a great relationship with her. I would see her in the hallways. I'd always say hello. We'd always be joking around. And she just really struck me as someone that was passionate about being in the school. And I was just thinking about how I get through, and just trying to finish things out. I wasn't actually working at the dispensary, I think, at this time, but she had came to me. She was like, they want me to coach girls flag football, and I need another coach. What do you think? And I remember at first being like, I don't really need this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really didn't. But then when I went home, I talked about it with my girlfriend and really just broke down what I needed and what could really help me. And this opportunity seemed awesome. And last year, I really got a chance to fall in love with the sport of girls flag. And people ask me all the time, like, what's the big difference and what's so different about it? But the fact that you have set first down markers, a running clock. A lot of these girls have never played football before, so you really get some creativity on the offensive side of things. And then also, defensively, it's a fast game. We talk all the time about handling blitzes in your face. I've really got one of the best defenses in the state, and we've just really got really creative with our blitz packages. So I've really enjoyed building this program from nothing. This season was definitely one of the most trying ones, again, like I said, because some unforeseeable things happened. Our head coach wound up getting relieved of her duties midway through the season. We had injuries to our top 3 players, 2 from offense and 1 from defense. And realistically, it was a challenging season because I saw the potential of what we could have been. We started the year 3-0-1, and we had all the promise in the world to potentially, have the first playoff season in history. We kept saying it in practice, kept working on it, and we just had some unforeseeable things happen. And the injuries were really tough. And I think that that's another thing that people really don't realize about, girls flag is these girls play hard, man. It's physical football. They can get hurt, and they have. And realistically, I really saw the dedication increase, in some of the players on my team. And realistically, we ended the season 4-5-1, which was, in my opinion, it was a disappointment, because I felt like, I coached them the best that I could. We made the changes on offense to get some better scoring opportunities, and we just ran into a tough schedule. Hunterdon Central was undefeated this year, number 1, and they were in our conference. And realistically, you got to be one of the top 2 in the conference to make it to the playoffs. And we beat the other playoff team, Plainfield. And that's what I think is the most disappointing thing, because it's almost, and I'll get into my Knicks, which we'll talk about later on in the season, but in this episode. But I think that the thing that was most disappointing was that I saw that light at the end of the tunnel for my girls. I saw that we could have done great things had we been healthy. Had my coach not gotten fired midway through the season. It was just a lot of things that I just could not control. And I've been preaching to myself for the longest that there are things that are just not going to be within your control, and you just have to try and navigate it and still find a way to be positive. And essentially, at the end of the season, I thought to myself, I'm going to be transitioning to a different job. I'm going to have way more responsibilities. Is this something that I want to do again? Because there were times where I couldn't even communicate with the girls. Basically, certain apps weren't working to where I would show up to practice and they already had canceled it, and I had no idea of knowing. So there was a lot of things, both not with the girls but just administration wise, that led to some frustrations. And really, I had to dissect and think about whether I wanted to come back and coach again next year. And I think it's still on the fence. there's some days I wake up and I'm like, yo, I want to do this 100%. Let's run it back for a third year. And then there's some times where I look and I'm like, I just don't know that I'm going to have the energy to give them 110% like they deserve. So, right now it's just an interesting point for me because I saw, and fuck the money. Like, it's not about the money. For me, it's more about, someone like Aaliyah who couldn't do shit last year. She was someone that we just could not depend on out there. And, to see her elevate and get not one, but 2 pick sixes on defense, that to me was awesome. Having at the end of the year when we're breaking things down and I'm asking the girls what they want to do with their lives. And the girl Bree says to me, she's like, Coach, I want to play girls flag football in college. That's the shit that really resonates with me, More than winning 4 games, more than whatever money that they could have paid me for a position, making direct change, affecting people's lives, creating futures for these girls, that's something that makes me want to come back. That's something that, as a coach, it means a lot to me, man. But I just don't know. I don't know, and I think that as things move forward, we will figure out if I will be continuing on coaching with Girls Flag, or whether I'll do something different. The main thing is, I was able to make change in some of these girls' lives. Sometimes these girls didn't have shit to do, and some of them, had work and other things, and we were able to help them to see more than what they were. This girl, Mackenzie, couldn't catch a nosebleed if she wanted to. And then on the last game in senior night, she catches a touchdown in front of her father who hadn't been there all season long. And, that's the type of things that we love, making experiences for these girls that they'll remember for the rest of their lives, man. So, there was a quote from Giannis Antetokounmpo. One of the reporters had asked, they was like, do you view this season as a failure? And, I listened to the quote a couple times, and I really had to think about it for my own self, because when I thought about things, yeah, we didn't make the playoffs. We did not make the playoffs. But we doubled our score, right? We went from 2 wins to 4 wins, right? And I can't say that I view this as a failure. This was not a failure season for me. We got better. We built this program, and for the first year we had a JV program. So, when it comes down to it, I don't know if I'll be there next year. I want to be there. I want to see if the schedule will allow it. But, if not, I can honestly live with the fact that I left that program in a much better place than it started, So, to recap everything, when I'm, telling y'all about Flag, it was a tough season. Was it the season we wanted? No. But I still deem it as a successful season. And I'm thankful for all the girls for giving me everything they had, because I gave y'all everything I had. All right? And then I think a great place to then go into, which a lot of people want to talk to me about, has been my New York Knicks. All right? I think the best place to start with this New York Knicks team is, and let everybody know about kind of like what happened, was, let's start from what happened at episode 266. Last time we talked, Jalen Brunson had just gotten hurt, and we were all wondering about what this team was going to look like without Jalen Brunson. And I think for the last part of that regular season, we saw that the New York Knicks have a supporting cast. They have players around Jalen Brunson that can do more. We saw someone like OG Anunoby, who for that latter part of the season stepped up offensively, was given multiple 20, 30-point games, and really had us thinking that going into the playoffs, if we could right the ship and hold it over until Jalen Brunson gets back, we'd have a serious chance. And I think that as Knicks fans, we all saw the end of the season. We saw Jalen Brunson, get back to being healthy. And we saw that we were going to, potentially make a good run here in the playoffs. And then starting off the playoff series, I got to give a shout out to my boy Jeff. He said he actually initially had picked the Pistons to beat the Knicks. But I told him, I was like, yo, I don't know, man. The Knicks, they got something special going on here. And we saw in that Detroit series that the New York Knicks' physicality and toughness was tested. We saw a team in Detroit. When I went into that Garden game 1, I saw a team that was hungry, that wanted it, and that was trying to physically impose their will on the New York Knicks. And I think that we learned a lot about the Knicks in that Detroit series, because we learned that the Knicks got a little bit of toughness to them. They got a little bit of nitty-gritty in them, And I think that when we saw Detroit, we saw a guy in Cade Cunningham who gave us precursors, who gave us a little bit of premonition as to what would be New York's demise later on in the playoffs. And what we saw from the Knicks in that Detroit series was a team that could will themselves to play better. We saw the Knicks will themselves to play better, but most importantly, we saw them get a lot more physical in that Detroit series. And once they beat Detroit, I think that was a great confidence boost for the Knicks. I think that no one truly thought the Knicks were going to lose to the Pistons except Jeff. But I think that what we have to go out there and say is that Boston series, I don't think anyone believed the Knicks could beat Boston. But as a true Knicks fan, you got to roll the ball out there and you got to lace them up. So if it was all wins on paper, the Lakers would still be in the fucking playoffs. But you got to go roll out there and play basketball. And what we saw for the Knicks against Boston, like my boy Reese alluded to, was the fact that these New York Knicks teams would not go out to great starts. And really, they said it all the time in college, and you would say it all the time in high school, but if you give yourself a hole, it's hard to dig out of that hole. And, in that Boston series, the Knicks did it on the road. Come back from behind, come back from behind at home. And what we saw from that Knicks in that Boston series is that Jalen Brunson was the closer. He definitively shot in and shot out at the end of game situation, proved that he is the clutchest player in the NBA in clutch time. That's what I got from the Boston series. I got that, Jalen Brunson is as advertised. I think for a lot of people, they knew about Jalen Brunson. I think they knew about what we've seen on ESPN for some people that don't watch the Knicks. But I think on a national scale against the Boston Celtics, Jalen Brunson proved that he is the clutchest player in the NBA and is worth every dollar that he took a pay cut for. So, Jalen Brunson shined in that Boston series. But again, the thing that we learned about the Knicks that kind of alluded to the demise, we're going to keep going into it, was the three-point shooting. Anytime you allow a team like Boston to shoot and make over 20 made threes, you're going home with an L. And I think that Boston, even though Tatum got hurt, Boston showed us that the New York Knicks struggle to defend the three-point line. That's what I saw from that Boston series. When you cannot defend the three-point line, it becomes a lot easier to come back from behind when you're making three after three after three, right? So, we go into the Indiana series. And I think I was in Madison Square Garden for game 1. The Knicks broke my heart because out of all the things that can happen in the world, I get picked to get a seat upgrade. I went from all the way up there in the 400 section to get down live in the 100 level and watch the New York Knicks blow a 20-point lead and lose game one. And essentially, that was the series right there. Once home court advantage had flipped, and we saw that the Knicks struggled to be the great road team that we saw them to be in the playoffs in Indiana, that whole series flipped. You gotta win your winnable games. And we saw the precursor when the New York Knicks lost that first game. In franchise history, they have not won a playoff series that they lost game one at home. You gotta take care of home court advantage. And the New York Knicks did not do so. And what we saw an Indiana team that was a little bit more deeper. We saw an Indiana team that wanted to run the basketball. And run they did. They ran my New York Knicks out of oblivion and had my boy Karl Anthony Towns in a fucking elimination game, hands on knees, not able to get up on the screen to defend a three-pointer. Atrocious. So, again, when I look at the Indiana Pacers series, I see a winnable series. I didn't even watch game one of the finals because I am still sick that the Knicks are not playing. But, that's the reality of the situation. The Knicks got outplayed, and the Knicks also got outcoached. And we talk about Reese here, Big Reese, he's got a great question. He goes, how much of this falls on Tibbs? And I'll say this, I looked at an old clip from, I'd say it had to be about February or January. And I remember this distinctly because me and my dad had talked about it going on the way to work. I usually call my dad in the mornings and talk to him sometimes about the Knicks. And I remember this distinctly because it was the game that I think Mikal Bridges hit like a game winner or something like that. And prior to it, there was conversations about Tibbs playing the starters too much, right? And Mikal Bridges went out to the media and said that he talked about Tibbs and he said, hey, we need to start playing the bench a little bit more. Starters are getting tired. And I think that was a premonition of what could have potentially cost Thibodeau his job. I feel like, and it happens all the time in corporate America, it happens all the time in sports, but once you don't believe in a guy anymore, once you do not believe, I'm not listening to you. You're not valid to me anymore. And I'm not saying that that's what I believe about Tom Thibodeau. I think that the New York Knicks continuously got better as Thibodeau was the coach. They went from being a non-playoff team to losing in the first round, to losing in the second round, to losing in the Eastern Conference Finals. So if you look at the job that Tom Thibodeau has done, just based off of merit, he has gotten the team better. But if I'm looking at this from a business standpoint, Reese, and I'm answering your question here, I'm looking at the New York Knicks, and I feel as though that Leon Rose, but more so James Dolan, being a little bit obsessed with his own greed, he is expediting this process a little bit faster, right? And I think that in James Dolan's impatience, we've seen this multiple times backfire on the Knicks. The impatience of James Dolan led to them getting Carmelo Anthony and trading away half their assets when they could have just got him in free agency, right? The impatience of James Dolan has led to how many New York Knicks players leaving and going to play on championship teams, right? So I think that this is more on James Dolan wanting for the Knicks to win a championship so bad that he's forgetting how he got there. I do think that Tom Thibodeau definitely did not do the right adjustments in the Indiana series. And we talk about it all the time. The coach cannot go out there and shoot fucking jump shots. The coach cannot go out there and guard on the screen and roll. But what we can do is trying to put the right players in position or switch up coverages or switch how we're defending. There's about 3 different ways you can defend a pick and roll. If for those that don't know basketball, you can trail it, you can bump it, or you can go under it. Or, excuse me, you can switch it. So there's 4 different ways you can defend a screen and roll. I only saw the Knicks do one. All right? So, again, when it comes to holding a coach accountable, you have to do the right adjustments to make sure that your team is in the position to win. Tom Thibodeau, I think the Eastern Conference Finals was the test. That was the test. We know he's a great coach. We know he is a great, motivator, defensive mind. But the Knicks weren't great defensively in the playoffs, right? When you talk about, that Indiana series, they had spurts of good basketball, maybe even a game or two of good basketball. But what it takes to go and win a championship, Tom Thibodeau did not have that team defensively ready to win a championship. And with the caliber of players that we had for the New York Knicks, I think the lack of adjustments in crunch time, right? The lack of adjustments in Indiana cost Tom Thibodeau his job. Leon Rose didn't believe in him anymore. James Dolan didn't believe in him anymore. And some of the rumblings that we're hearing around media from some of my media guys is that the locker room was lost in New York, right? So, again, we have situations before where, remember the Cleveland Cavaliers? David Black goes to the finals, loses. Then they fire him. Tyronn Lue comes in, they win it. So, there is room to get a new guy and have a new voice. But I just remember a quote that was told to me in philosophy, and is if you want different results, you have to move different. So, I'll say this: it's almost like, you have that girl that really, really likes you. She's bad. You really, really you have a good time with her, but she might be a bop. You might not want to wife that girl, right? She might be out in the streets, even though she's super dope. Whatever, she's not good for you, right? And might not be the best decision. You might not get those fun times anymore late long at night. But I can't deal with it. That's not the best decision for me. I think that in the same regard, the New York Knicks, they saw Tom Thibodeau as that girl that's super dope. You know what I mean? Get you to where you need to go. Can give us the best chance to win. But when it comes down to the big one, the one that you really need, when we really got to make the adjustments to win it to the finals, what makes us think that if Thibodeau could not do it in the Eastern Conference Finals, he was just going to wake up and be a whole different fucking guy in the NBA Finals next year? So I love Tom Thibodeau. I met Tom Thibodeau. I took a picture with Tom Thibodeau. I talked to him never thinking he'd be a New York Knicks head coach. But sometimes it's just time, brother. Do I think he deserved to lose his job? No. But I think that something different needed to happen for the Knicks to take the next step. And who knows? Do I think Jason Kidd is the answer, Jeff asked? I don't think that Jason Kidd is the answer. What I think the New York Knicks should do is I think they should get someone that has won a fucking championship before. My boy Isaiah has given us he's given us one of the best quotes of all time. This year he was talking and we were saying about how how you really have to limit and watch who you're listening to, right? And he said a quote, he's like, "Why are we listening to the Grinch?" Right? And it was funny because now it's become like a in culture for us, right? Like, why are we listening to this guy if he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about, right? So in that same regard, if you see a guy in Tom Thibodeau who has been questioned about his player management by players in the media midway through the season, what makes you think that locker room was still held together? I know Jalen Brunson, went in the media and said he loved it. He gave the political answer. Jalen Brunson is never going to give you anything. Have you watched any of his interviews? They're boring. They're Kawhi Leonard-like. But That's the moniker that he's chosen to be for the New York Knicks, and it works, you know? But someone within that locker room was unhappy with Thibodeau. And it was so much to where Mikal Bridges had to go out in the media and express that the players were getting worn down. Reese said, as a Knicks fan, do you think if he played that bench more outside of McBride, Wright, and Shamet, would he have gotten more production? Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you watch DeLon Wright? Yo, in that game they won in Indiana, if DeLon Wright does not play, the New York Knicks don't win that game, you know? And I think that also is what alluded to Tom Thibodeau losing his job, because he then changed his coaching philosophy towards the end of that series. It worked for a little bit, and then Rick Carlisle changed his shit up too. And once Rick Carlisle changed up the way he was attacking the Knicks and switching up, okay, if you're going to put that bench out there, I'm going to leave Tyrese Halliburton out there with those bench players. And he switched his lineups up. And Thibodeau could not counter the counter. And that's what happened to the New York Knicks. So, again, the Knicks had a great season. Everybody keeps saying, I'm sorry about your Knicks. I'm not sorry. Knicks gave me the best run I had in my adult life. I got to go to the Knicks game and get taken down front row. Well, not front row, but pretty damn close. You know? I got to see the Knicks beat the Boston Celtics, which I hadn't seen since about, 07, 08. You know, I saw the New York Knicks take strides, huge strides towards being a better basketball team. More watchable. My dad said it multiple times. This New York Knicks team was very watchable. But we are going to see, like TK said, a lot of adjustments. I think moving forward, you got to sign Mitchell Robinson. He was the deciding factor. When he is healthy, that defense was a great anchor. All right. And he was able to guard guys on the perimeter. All right. He was able to extend out and not go underneath screens on 3-point shots. Right. I tell you what, you re-sign Mitchell Robinson and you know, we're going to have to see. We've been seeing a lot of inklings about potentially Giannis Antetokounmpo coming. I've been seeing a lot about potentially Kevin Durant coming. But unfortunately, I think Karl-Anthony Towns, he's on the hot seat, man. I'd be highly surprised if he is a New York Knick by February. I'd be highly surprised. Because what I think is he got exposed defensively. All right? Julius Randle wasn't exactly a shutdown guy. But he definitely wouldn't have been doing what my boy Karl-Anthony Towns was doing out there. I watched multiple times this motherfucker would shoot a three-pointer and then get beat up the court as you're the first person back. Come on, man. It's effort. And whether that means Karl-Anthony Towns just is not in shape, I don't know. I love Karl-Anthony Towns. I love his game. He's a Jersey boy. But him and Jalen Brunson, if they both... Well, I know Jalen's going to be there. But if Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be a New York Knickerbocker next year, he's got to get better defensively. The jump shot's there. You know, he's done some tough and ones. But the New York Knicks lost to Indiana because they couldn't stop a fucking nosebleed. The Knicks' defense was atrocious. Atrocious. You can't win games like that, and you definitely ain't going to win a championship like that. So I'm looking to our franchise player. I'm looking to Jalen Brunson. Look at me. You are the best player in the NBA. Offensively, nobody can stop you in crunch time. But they are taking you and putting you in pick and roll situations because they don't think you can guard them. You need to get some cone drills, go out there, do something this summer to be a better defensive basketball player. Help defense, and I'm going to break this down for people out there. Help defense. My college basketball coach hated it. Hated it. Because we played in a conference where if you help off of the person that's driving, that's a cash 3 every time. Cash 3 every time. So I'm looking to Jalen Brunson, and I'm saying, hey, my best player, you need to be better defensively. I need you to make it to where guys are not putting you in pick and roll situations to get a switch so that they can cook you. You're the best offensive player that I've seen in a Knicks uniform in a long time. But I need you to be the best defensive Knicks player I've seen since Iman Shumpert. I need a great defensive Knicks perimeter player. I need you to be that, Jalen Brunson. And if he can do that, and we can stop getting all these help situations to where guys are getting wide open threes and swing threes from swinging around the horn, then you'll see the Knicks become a lot better. But it ain't offensively. That wasn't the problem. Thibodeau definitely did not attribute to winning, but I can't put it all on him. I just have to say that the New York Knicks defensively really, really let us down. Knicks fans as a whole. Because this was probably one of the best chances in a long time the New York Knicks would have to win a championship. It's only going to get harder. You can't retain everybody the same. People aren't going to be there from the last team. It is hard to win an NBA championship, and this was one of our best shots. And I think that's why it's hard for me to watch the NBA Finals now, and I can't because I just haven't accepted it yet that our Knicks, it was a great season, but they just ain't there no more, man. But the last thing I definitely wanted to talk about was I definitely wanted to thank everyone for coming out to my cannabis event last Sunday. I was able to, again, we talk about navigating challenges, and I was able to navigate some really tough challenges in doing this bowling event. Last year, we had to deal with it being December, being cold. It was our first ever bowling event. We didn't know what to expect, how to get brands to invest in us and to want to spend that $200 on a brand sponsorship. So it was a lot. But this year, we had to navigate the fact that we weren't carrying certain brands in store anymore. We had to navigate budgeting issues from other companies that was there last year. And just overall, it was just every event that you do is a whole process, right? And, I know leading up to it, me and Isaiah were really adamant on trying to double it and trying to get things popping. And I think my favorite part about every event is the conclusion and just looking around and seeing the looks on everyone's faces and happiness. Yo, we had a pregame before the event started at 1 o'clock, and the pregame was going so well that we had a hard time corralling people in to go in to start the event. So I think that was really dope. Got to see a whole bunch of different brands come together. And the amount of people that have given me positive feedback about this, it's just been humbling, man. I love bringing people together. And to say that we had over about 200 people show up to the event, over 26 vendors. We gave out over 400 different items for people to get. That shit was awesome. I truly love throwing events. Wouldn't have been able to do it without my family. Big shout out to TK, Tori, Tyree, Pops, Mom, Ashley. All of them helped me to put together a great event. Also want to give a shout out to my boy King Dutch, Isaiah. That's my right-hand man. Professionally, he's really helped me to take the next step in cannabis. And each event that we do, we separate ourselves as real culture guys and not just clock in, clock out guys, So, we're here for cannabis culture. I unfortunately have been arrested for cannabis back, when I was 21 years old. And, to think that I went from being arrested for smoking the plant that I love to now getting a career where I could potentially earn six figures, it's very humbling, man. And I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. I think that a lot of times, people wait for opportunities to happen to them, and they wait. But, no better time than now. I think that I've continued to try and make these opportunities, make connections with people, and network to put myself in the best positions cannabis-wise. And, what we've seen is a belief system. We talked about earlier on in the podcast about what happens when people stop believing in you. And I feel like right now, me and Isaiah have the belief of people within cannabis that we're true culture guys, and we're here to advance the culture of cannabis in New Jersey, man. And I'm about to get my own store over in Somerset. Big things are happening. My life's changing every single day. And I just want to thank everyone out there for rocking with me, man. There's no telling where I'll be 2-3 years from now. But I just know that I'm in the right spot, you know. Whether it means I'm still going to be coaching girls flag, whether it means I'll be in Somerset, whether, who knows, down the line, whether I'll be somewhere else. We have no idea. But all I know is as long as I keep my head down, I keep grinding and putting my head to the grindstone, good things will happen. And the last thing I'm going to say before I hop off the air, it was a dope text message that I got from Toast from Garden Greens. Big shout out to Toast from Garden Greens. But he even said to me, he was like, yo, what you guys are doing for the culture is huge. And, you know, if we keep it going, nobody's going to be able to stop us. And I say that to end the show because, you know, the last 2 months, you know, my schedule suffocated me. You know, bowling suffocated me. My work suffocated me. And I wasn't able to prioritize this podcast the way I wanted to. And I'm just happy that here now, for the, you know, the people that are tuned in on live, you know, thank you for being patient and rocking out with me. You know, I know it's been, you know, you've been asking where's the last episode been, but, you know, really it's just been a fuck ton of shit going on in my life. And I'm just happy to be able to do it today and give you guys and give you an update and let you know what's going on in my life, man. You know, we got the summer season that's kicking off with my boy TK, and I swear this is my last thing, I swear. But it's been really frustrating, man. Like, we're in summer season, and we finished up our regular season in bowling, and in both leagues we finished in the bottom half, and just didn't have the finish that we wanted. And we go, okay, it's summer season, it's a new season, whoop-de-doo-dah, we're gonna be doing some different shit, we're gonna win games. And first 3 summer, I guess you could say, matches that I've had, all losses. Loss. Oh my gosh, man. It's been rough. It's like new season, same results. And like my boy TK's laughing. Sometimes you just gotta laugh, man. I mean, we bowled against a guy yesterday who shot his first fucking 800. What can we do? What can you do? You know, we're shooting well. Guy shoots 800 on you. You just got to tip your cap, man. And I'm saying this to say that at the end, you know, some things are just out of your control. You know, me and TK, you know, me, Pops, Tanya, Fred, we're trying. It's not like we're going out there purposely losing, dumping games. We're going out there putting our best foot forward, and we're just matched up with some tough matchups. So my last piece that I want to give to everyone out there is no matter how hard it is, no matter how many times you keep losing, no matter if guy shoots 800 on you, no matter if some guy shoots 300 on you, who cares? Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody feels sorry for you. You gotta pick yourself up and keep fighting. And that's where I'm at right now. Keep fighting. Keep digging. Because at some point, me and TK are gonna get a win. We're gonna get a win at Linden. At some point, me and Pops, we're gonna get a win at Jersey. And we're streaky guys, man. You give us a win, you give us an inch, we're gonna take a mile. So you better keep whooping up on us right now while we're low. Because once we come up, I promise you, ain't nothing more demoralizing than seeing me punching out a strike or humping out a strike. And it's coming. So I tell you guys right now, even though we're losing games, TK, keep believing. Pops, keep believing. Tanya, keep believing. Fred, keep believing. We got a lot left in the tank. I love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Talk That Talk Show. Every single month, you're going to get an episode of that Talk That Talk Show. My 100% unfiltered thoughts. I love y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you for being patient with me. Brian Spawn, I love you, man. Thank you for always inspiring me to come out here and get on the mic. Thank you, Jeff, for asking me when am I recording the podcast. Each one of you all holding me accountable keeps me ready to come out here and record. Talk That Talk Show ain't never stopping, baby. It ain't stopping. Love y'all and see y'all next time.